You're going to find out why developers and guitarists have way more in common than you might think. Why is it that you can figure out the code, but guitar still feels like this complex mystery? And most importantly, how can you implement the same approach you use when, for example, debugging into your playing? And if you're new here, then welcome. My name is Lukas and I've been for the past 5 years helping intermediate guitarists to overcome that 120 BPM intermediate rut. And before that, I was a developer as well. That's why in this video we're going to dive deep into what connects these two worlds together, because here is the thing. The same logical thinking that helps you to solve complex coding problems is exactly what will help you to become an incredible guitar player. If you're anything like the players we talk to every single week, then you've probably hit that plateau where you're watching all of the YouTube videos, practicing scales, but progress feels stagnant. And that's especially brutal for analytical thinkers, because you know how to learn. You should be able to figure this thing out because you've done much more complex stuff in your life. Here is where most developers go wrong. They overthink guitar in a wrong way, treating it like abstract, chaotic art instead of structured code it really is. Guitar operates on systems, patterns, and rules just like programming languages do. When you understand these underlying systems, everything starts clicking into place. Your pattern recognition skills work exactly the same way on the guitar. Just like you can look at a line of code and immediately see the if-else statement or spot a for or while loop, you can train your ear to recognize the 1-5-6-4 progression or identify when a solo uses a pentatonic scale, for example. The difference is that code patterns are visual, while guitar patterns are both visual and auditory. In coding, you have syntaxes, patterns, functions. Once you understand the system, you can solve any problem that comes your way. Guitar is no different. Scales, chords, arpeggios, they're not random shapes. They are systems with rules. And once you understand how notes relate to each other across the entire neck, you unlock predictability. But most players never get shown the system. They get served licks and riffs with no context, like being given 5 lines of code and being told just memorize this. When you finally start seeing the fretboard like a developer sees a code base, for example, everything starts to click. It's the same thing as you wouldn't memorize every possible if-else statement out there, but instead you would learn the logic behind this loop so you can write any if-else statement you need. Guitar works the same way. Instead of memorizing every possible chord shape, instead you learn the system behind chord construction, such as intervals. Instead of memorizing every scale pattern, you understand how scales are built and how they connect across the entire fretboard. The second incredible benefit developers actually have is the problem solving known as debugging. When your code breaks, you don't just keep running the same broken function over and over again. Instead, you isolate the problem first. Is it a logic error, a syntax issue, a bad data input? This changes everything, because most guitarists practice like they would just be randomly changing the code and hoping it works, or even worse, they don't change anything and just running the same broken function over and over. No surprise they've been stuck for years. So here is how you can apply the same debugging logic for your guitar playing. Set a specific goal, such as play this lick cleanly at 80 BPM. Test, for example, record yourself, analyze the result, did it sound clean, and adjust. Either move on or slow it down, isolate it, change to a different technique. That's why when learning a complex guitar solo is just a series of smaller musical phrases, each with its own technique and purpose. You can isolate each phrase, master it individually, then combine it all together. Most guitarists try to learn the entire solo at one, but you already know that's like trying to write an entire program in one massive function. That's why if you would already apply this approach to guitar as well, you'd be absolutely unstoppable. Because thanks to it, you've created a feedback loop that will massively accelerate your growth. If you practice guitar like you're debugging code with curiosity, structure, and iteration, you'd stop spinning your wheels and actually start leveling up. That's why I've prepared for you a training video where you can learn the same exact approach, where you'll be able to set a specific goal that matters to you. Then you would get clear on how to work on that goal and how mainly start tracking it so you know whether what you're doing is actually working. And as a result, you'll finally have an actual guitar practice routine in place so you can start making big gains in your playing. If interested, then link is in the description. Because simply put, whatever gets tracked and measured will get improved. That's why you don't need more information. You don't need more tabs to memorize because you've done that. Instead, you need to actually understand the logic behind all of those dots on the fretboard. Because one of the strongest skills every developer actually builds is pattern recognition. You can look at the code base and immediately spot a structure, a loop, redundancy, any problems. And guitar is the same, but here is what no one teaches you. Those random shapes on the fretboard, they are repeating patterns. Caged, intervals, triads, root, positions, octaves, diagonal connections, scales, arpeggios. Most people see a mess of dots, but a developer's brain is trained to see the logic behind the mess, but only if you're taught in the right way. Because when someone is finally shown how to build a mental framework of patterns for guitar, they stop feeling lost and as a result start feeling in control and finally having the freedom over the instrument. Once you recognize that 90% of guitar is just pattern recall, not magic, you'll realize you were never unmusical. You were just under-instructed. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of tech-minded players just like you. Guys who thought they were not gifted or unmusical. Guys who tried everything and still felt stuck. Most of them tried YouTube, Patreons, tabs, even teachers, and still feel like nothing's clicking. But after we start working with them and help them to reframe their approach and teach their brain to see guitar like a system, progress explodes. They're able to break through years of frustrations in weeks. So, if you've ever thought, why am I so good at coding but not guitar, then I want you to know it's not you. It's the method you've been following. The same brain that makes you incredible at programming will also make you incredible at guitar playing as long as you know exactly how to leverage it. That's why feel free to check out the practice routine training to make sure you're actually starting to move forward with your playing. And if you've enjoyed this video and mainly you've learned something, then just please let me know by hitting the like button so I know the stuff I talk about is helping players out there. Thank you so much for being here, keep the guitar alive, and I'll see you in the next video.